Hi, Dr. Lamb. My name is Abigail Whitecamp, but you know me as Abigail Kopp. I am submitting this video for our Lesson 5 alternate assignment, so that's what I'll be talking to you about in this video. So I guess to begin, we can start with part 1, so I can tell you what I've learned from the videos. Overall, I really liked the videos. I thought they were very informative and they were very easy to understand. What I took away mostly from video 1 is that verbal and nonverbal communication is extremely important, especially in conflict interactions. So in my opinion, and in my experience, people, if you say something, if you say one thing and your body language says something completely different, people will be more likely to take your body language as truth rather than what you're saying, what the words are coming out of your mouth. One of the other things that I took away from video 1 was that both parties, or any of the parties involved, they have to be super self-aware of their behavior. They have to be emotionally intelligent, if you will. And I think that's really shown in this video because when talking about both the initiator and the receiver, the video says about, avoid overgeneralizing and exaggerating. You're supposed to speak for yourself, and then more so on the receiver side, you be an active listener, you ask questions, confirm what you understand. So things that really show that you have to regulate is the better word, regulate your behavior in the conflict interaction. And then I think I have one last thing for you, video 1, I do, is that one other thing that I took away is that successful communication gets easier the more you do it. And that makes sense because we've all heard of the phrase, practice makes perfect. And so now as far as video 2 goes, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was whenever the sentence came across that when done correctly, difficult conversations can be some of the most successful conversations you've ever had. And I thought that was really interesting because I know we have talked about how conflict can be productive, but from the standpoint of an initial view on conflict, people will see it very negatively and say, well, nothing good can come out of conflict, and they view it purely in a destructive manner, as opposed to how we can really build and practice successful communication in our conflict interactions. So I thought it was neat and important that the video shared that as well. Additionally, from the second video, I also thought about how, in my experience, people are more likely to think about and focus on the other party's behavior and how their behavior is contributing to the conflict. And so because of this and because of this realization, I thought it was really interesting in the second video that one of the 4 phases was to have a reflection, to really think about why the other party's behavior bothers you. I think it's important to do that because when you understand that within yourself, you can communicate this to the other parties. So that way we can build that mutual understanding and have a better likelihood of success in the conflict interaction. I think that's pretty much it for part 1. So now we can go to part 2. Which, as you know, is reframing the original statement to try to make something more effective. So I will hold this up to you while I read it. My new formulated statement that I think is more effective says, since we all want to get this matter resolved quickly, I think it would be best if we start moving on it as soon as possible. So that is then part 2. So then we can move to part 3 as to why I feel this is more effective than the last statement. The original statement, I felt more so like a personal criticism, and even though it had a joke in it, it sounded more like sarcasm and more of a personal attack to the receiver. as opposed to this new statement. Everything that I have before the comma, so the first part of my statement, which is saying, since we all want to get this matter resolved quickly, I thought that part was more effective because it did establish common ground and identified a specific shared goal, which is really referred to in video 2. Whenever you're talking through the conversation phase where you are sharing your perceptions with others, excuse me, and you're identifying those shared goals and trying to co-create that solution. And then the second part of the statement, which I have everything after the comma, saying, I think it would be best if we start moving on it as soon as possible. I thought this was more effective than the last statement because it does include an I statement. So that person who is saying the statement is sharing their perception. They are speaking for themselves and not for themselves and the entire group. And then, they're saying the same thing, essentially, but they're making sure that they are speaking specifically for themselves. And overall, I think this statement, as it has been reframed, is definitely effective, more effective, and I feel as though it still creates that sense of urgency that needs to be communicated, but I think it's communicated in a much more productive and respectful and non-offensive way. So I really wanted to think about this statement and think about how I would want to hear it if I were the receiver on this end. So I think this statement is better because it allows not only the initiator and the receiver, but also the entire group to think about the conflict itself and to think about what the root cause is and really focus on the matter at hand rather than making a sarcastic joke and having somebody possibly take it offensively. So I believe that is everything. Thank you very much.